very good evening to you. This is First News. I'm Themba Obe. In our main story, this afternoon, President Robert Mugabe announced his new cabinet. The cabinet has been reduced from 33 ministers to 26 ministers, of which only 4 are women. But when deputy ministers and ministers of state for provincial affairs are counted, the numbers rise to over 50 individuals. The official swearing-in ceremonies will take place tomorrow. Although most of the cabinet ministers have served in government before, there has been a shuffle in some ministries. Patrick Chinamasa moves from justice to finance, Obed Mpofu from mines to transport, Jonathan Moyo takes over the information portfolio, Xavier Kasukuwere is moved from indigenization to environment and is replaced by Francis Nema. I asked Crisis Coalition spokesperson Thabani Nyoni for civil society's take on today's announcements.
Well, Themba, first thing that I would like to say is that it raises a lot of curiosity, this cabinet. One of the highlights that emerges is that it's been reduced from 33 ministers to 26. We see that, but you see that when you add deputy ministers and other portfolios, you get up to 51 members of the executive when you include deputy ministers. But also, what is interesting is that there is a new feature called the Ministers of State for Provincial Affairs, which I think is trying to deal with issues of devolution. In terms of being business as usual, in some extent, it's yes, a business as usual. It's likely recycling a number of people that have held ministerial portfolios before. There are not very many new faces in this cabinet, so to speak, in terms of people that have been in government before. So we feel that the approach and the attitude and the performance is not likely to change at all, Themba. But what is interesting is the creation of the Ministers of State for Provincial Affairs, which means that perhaps there is a strategy to try and find a way of imposing the executive on a provincial council.
Thabani, in your opinion, with President Mugabe at the helm and this cabinet, what are the prospects for Zimbabwe for the next 5 years?
Well, it's certainly, Themba, the people of Zimbabwe generally, the industry people, ordinary citizens and various sectors, we're really expecting that they will get a kind of cabinet that inspires confidence, it reduces the risk perception associated with Zimbabwe, and sort of gives some form of vitality in government. But if you look at it's the same old story, ministers or Service of Small Sunyoni, still the medium to small enterprises minister, Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, Flora Boka, and so on. You still get the same people sort of doing. It doesn't really look like Zimbabwe is going to get better fortunes in terms of policy delivery. We will wait to see. But from the look of it going down, you don't really get a sense that there will be a difference. The approach will be the same. What is only interesting and curious to Themba is that the Vice President, Joyce Mujuru, gets a Minister of State in her office. We are not sure whether that means that she will actually begin to assume a more active role in terms of playing in the executive, and what kind of role will she be playing and so on. We will wait to see. But it certainly gives an impression that her office will be very active.
Amongst the new faces in the cabinet are Walter Chidakwa is the new Minister of Mines, Zikamai Mavaire, Energy and Power Development, Andrew Langa, Sports, Arts and Culture, Lazarus Dokora, Primary and Secondary Education.
Yes, there is some excitement, especially if you look at ministers like the Minister of Mines, where you've got Walter Chidakwa. Walter Chidakwa's background is basically been involved in business and also ran the previous export promotion agency in Zimbabwe. Should he be given room, I feel being able to bring in a lot of positives in the Minister of Mines. given the background of lack of transparency and also the lack of good governance. You also see Nema in the Ministry of Indigenization and Economic Empowerment. I think he's not as radical as other ministers as we have seen previously. He's also not very rhetorical. Should he also be given room, I'm sure we are likely to see a lot of positives in that ministry as well. But in as much as I can say, those are the two that I would say are quite topical in terms of positives for me.
Trevor, with President Mugabe at the helm and this cabinet, what are the prospects for Zimbabwe in the next 5 years?
Right. If you look at the challenges that Zimbabwe is going through, the main one is really economic challenges and also the need for economic recovery. But you also see then that Chinamasa has been moved into the Ministry of Finance, which is quite critical in terms of that objective. But if you look at what needs to be done in relation to that ministry, it means that there's need for foreign direct investments, that's engagement with FDIs. There's also need to engage with multilateral institutions for support to boost the Zimbabwean economy. There's also need to engage with the humanitarian aid agencies as well. But looking at the history of Chinamasa, he doesn't fit as somebody who's diplomatic enough to be able to engage at those levels and attract those kind of levels of support. Therefore, for me, I think it's going to be key in terms of drawing back government's prospects for economic recovery in the next 5 years.
The full list of ministers is as follows. In local government, Ignatius Chombo, Justice and Legal Affairs, Emerson Mnangagwa. Patrick Chinamasa takes over in Finance, Energy and Power Development, Zigamai Mavaire. Francis Nema moves to Indigenization. In Lands, Douglas Mombeshora. Jonathan Moyo takes over Information. Sydney Sekeramai is in Defense. Tourism, Walter Mzembi. Sports, Arts and Culture, Andrew Langa. Information and Communication Technology, Webster Shamu. Savia Kasukuwere moves to Environment. Primary and Secondary Education, Lazarus Dokora. Higher and Tertiary Education, Olivia Mchena. David Parenyatwa is in Health. Kembo Mohadi remains in Home Affairs. Opam Chinguri is in Women's Affairs. Labor is Nicholas Goche. Walter Chidakwa takes over Mines. Obet Mpofu is moved to Transport. Stembi Sonyoni, Small and Medium Enterprises. Joseph Made takes over Agriculture. Senior Minister without portfolio, Simon Kayamoyo. Flora Booker, Minister of State for Presidential Affairs. Joshua Umbwe, Minister of State for Vocational Training. Sylvester Nguni, Minister of State in Vice President Mjuru's office. First TV will bring you more analysis on this cabinet and its significance tomorrow on First Talk with Violet Gonda and on the news. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will conduct local authority runoff elections tomorrow. The elections will be held in 3 wards after the 31st July harmonized elections failed to produce winners. The council runoff elections will be held in Kadoma, Ward 4, Gusile, Ward 5, and Mtasa, Ward 30. 6 local authority candidates in these wards attracted the same number of votes. Voting will commence at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. There's an outcry in Bulawayo as several school authorities attach properties from parents who have failed to pay school fees. Many parents and guardians with children at schools have already received letters from debt collectors engaged by school authorities to attach their properties for failing to pay last term's and this term's fees. Bulawayo Provincial Education Administrator, Den Moyo, confirmed the move, saying this is the only way they can get their outstanding balances. But Roderick Moyo, a Bulawayo motor mechanic who failed to pay school fees for his young sisters, told First TV that government should stop this kind of behavior.
Ndakatonyorerwa tsamba nechikoro zvichinzi kana usingakwanisi kubhadhara mari totora property, saka dai government ichigona yagona kumisa zvinhu zvakadaro because zvinonetsa pakurarama pedu, because handina kana even mari yekuti ndobhadhare chikwere chiri kudiwa pachikoro ipapo. Ayo zvari kutoita zvakatoshata. Dai government ichigona kupindira yatopindira because mari hakuna madeza.
While Mbuso Fuzwayo, chairman of the local pressure group Ipechi Zulu, condemned the move by schools and government.
As much as the government had to relieve ratepayers by cancelling the bills, why don't the same government cancel the fees for the students that they are owing to the schools? Because it's one and the same thing. The parents who cannot afford to pay rates are the same parents who are not able to pay school fees. So I think it is unfortunate. If they were genuine and not doing it for votes, they should be saying parents were relieving you the burden of AMA rates in the form of not paying electricity, not paying rates, not paying school fees for the past. Let's continue from there. School are ordering schools not to instructing schools not to expel or attach anything from the residents, because the ratepayers are the same people who should pay school fees to the same government.
And now a business story with a difference. In Hong Kong, a pawn business is now offering people quick loans by pawning their designer handbags. The bags, made by Gucci, Chanel or Louis Vuitton, designer handbags, and they sell for thousands of dollars. In 30 minutes, a client can exchange their animal skin for Hong Kong dollars, up to half the value of their handbag, with interest, of course. If the customer fails to repay the loan, the bag is sold by one of the company's second-hand designer stores. Last week, a customer put up a crocodile skin handbag valued at $32,000 to secure funds. Hong Kongers can get a loan from $200 to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the quality of their handbag. In sports news, Rafa Nadal won the US Open men's singles last night. The number 2 ranked Spaniard added a second Grand Slam crown this season to his French Open triumph by beating defending world number 1 Novak Djokovic 6-2, 3-6, 6-4, 6-1. The triumph improved Nadal's career total to 13 Grand Slam wins, moving him one ahead of Australian Roy Emerson and into third on the all-time list behind Roger Federer at 17 and Pete Sampras at 14.
For a few things, this season is probably the most emotional one in my career. So I felt that I did everything right to have my chance here. So, you play one match against one of the best players of the history, like this Novak, and number 1 in the world, in probably his favorite surface. So I know I have to be almost perfect to win. I say the other day here. And means a lot for me have this trophy with me today.
Now, in football, we've heard of substitute goalkeepers, but not when the original keeper is still on the field. In a 4th division Brazilian game this week, the team's masseur went above the call of duty when he saw the goal under threat. The masseurs cleared one shot off the line and then stopped the rebound with both feet before scrambling the ball away for a double save any goalkeeper would have been proud of. He then turned, ran behind the goal, hurdled the advertising hoardings and sprinted to the dressing room entrance, chased by furious players from the opposing team. Riot police prevented the livid players from following him down the tunnel. And that ends tonight's bulletin. On behalf of the team, I wish you happy viewing on First TV, your nation, your station.